Welcome to Film at 50, a podcast that celebrates semi-centennials in the world of cinema. I'm your host, Brian Rowe, and I'm so very thrilled to welcome Danielle Krudy to the podcast today for the special bonus episode talking about her career as a director. How are we doing, Danielle?
Oh my gosh. Even just hearing it just sounds like I'm just I'm having a little bit of just a laughing experience thinking yeah, okay, that's where we're at. Okay, here we are.
Yes, Danielle, you are a director. Because I just watched your film and that was amazing. And I can't wait to ask you some questions about it. Before we get to your two new projects here, I wanted to kind of go back to the beginning. I wanted to tell our listeners where we got to know each other. That was in the fall of 2005 in the film program in Dusseldorf, Germany. What are your memories of that time?
Well, I just knew I wanted to go abroad and I wanted to keep studying film, and I signed up for this program and figured out how to get there. And then I get there and Brian and I don't know, what do you think? Like 15 other people?
Yeah, I was trying to remember the other day how many of us were there. Was it like 20-ish? I think it was about 20.
Just imagine Lost, the TV show, but in Dusseldorf, Germany. No, it was just like we all were there, and I realized everyone else knew each other, and I didn't know anybody. They all came from Loyola Marymount.
Yep.
And I didn't. And everybody was nice to me, but it was pretty weird that I was there.
So you did not know anybody when you got there? There wasn't a friend or somebody you were with? Okay.
No.
So it took you a few weeks to intermingle with everybody. Yeah, because I wasn't close friends with anyone that I went there with from LMU, but I knew of probably half of the students.
And LMU is a huge school, right?
Yeah, big school in LA. And it was our third year. So I had come to know some of the students in those first 2 years, but I wasn't really close with anybody until Dusseldorf. So there were so few of us there. It was hard to not get
by trauma.
Yeah.
It was really it was just here's the thing, Dusseldorf is just a fancy town where we were students. We were just broke kids, but the town is so fancy and really, it just was not a place that was right for us to be there. It was such a weird place to set this situation.
Yeah. There really weren't very many of us. One of the people who was there was Megan Evans, who I just interviewed for the podcast about 2 months ago. She is now a costume designer. She designed the costumes for Sound of Metal, which is getting a lot of buzz and awards, nominations right now.
Basically my favorite movie last year,
which was incredible, right? So I a few days before interviewing her, I'm watching this movie Sound of Metal I knew nothing about. I'm like, this is really good.
Oh my god, yeah.
Must be a thrill, especially as a costume designer. You can't really modulate the quality of the movie so much. I mean, you can read the screenplay and hope that it works, right? Whereas someone like you are directing, you're co-directing, you're there from beginning to end, and where the movie lives or dies is kind of you, right? Whereas costume designer, that's only a part of the a part of the puzzle,
Well, costumes are very important, and it's always a collaboration. But
absolutely.
Yeah, Megan really knocked it out of the park. Oh, I just thought she did such a good job, and the movie was amazing.
So what a thrill to have, two of you from Dusseldorf doing so many incredible things, Danielle. I thought we'd start by just going back to the beginning. What initially got you involved in film? What made you want to become a filmmaker?
I just was thinking this is the Dusseldorf survivors cinema. Now, I mean, I always I really wanted to be a director since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I watched movies all the time, and I don't know, I wrote my Montessori 8th grade paper on Steven Spielberg.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I wrote a paper on Spielberg too in 6th grade.
So who was I? I don't know. But my dad, I took his video camera that he used to videotape me and my sisters with in Ohio growing up, and I would make little movies and torture kids around the block and make stuff. And I was really, I was just invested, and I didn't know how, or I had no idea what path it was going to look like, but I was just in love with watching movies and making movies. And really, as an adult, I feel like making movies combines two of my favorite things, which is being on a sports team
Mhm.
and being at camp. And like, it's just like this weird
That's
twist.
I've never heard it put that way. That's totally true. Yeah.
It's really like that. So it's like, I just get like a kick out of it in that way.
Yeah, you just spoke of collaboration. It's such a collaboration. Even when you're a little kid, right? You can't make movies by yourself, right? You
Oh,
need friends to act in them, even if they're not actors.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Actually, I would still think this, my childhood best friend, Katie Hill, like she was a damn good actor. I just think about her a lot. But yeah, it was just like scrappy for forever, but I always kept the love for it.
Mhm. And where did you grow up? What town did
I
you grow
grew
up
up
in?
in Ohio, in
Okay.
Cleveland.
And so when you got to like high school, were you making films then too? Were you working? Were there any film programs in your high school or anything?
I was like, no, there wasn't. I did like an independent study with like an art teacher once. I like kind of corralled her into doing like a video study. I I think it was just like, well, it was like I went to Montessori school, which I think is like kind of an important note because like you could explore in Montessori. And I used to try and pitch like video projects to get away from doing papers.
Hmm.
So I really remember this stop motion animation about mitosis. That was like, if I could find that movie.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
but like just always trying to like sidestep doing actual work with like a movie.
Hmm.
But I didn't really get to do that in high school, even though I still was like in love with movies.
Hmm.
I it just didn't feel like accessible.
Okay.
Um, I had really straightforward parents who just wanted me to like study and do a good job.
Yeah. And then when did you decide to study film in college? Was that like really early on? Is that what you knew you wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, it was always just like, I want to be a filmmaker, I want to be a director,
Hmm.
and I never took writing seriously until later, also because it was just like my parents just didn't necessarily encourage that you could actually like make a living off writing. And
Mm.
um so yeah, I knew I wanted to study film if I could. And then like, I don't know, I was really obsessed with going to a craft school and
Okay.
then or trade school. And then I actually ended up going to a liberal arts school, which probably was like a really great thing for me because I needed to learn so many other things.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I went to study film at Wesleyan University in the film studies department.
Okay, cool. And then so did you graduate in 2007, the same
I
year
did.
that I graduated? Okay,
Yeah.
so you graduate, Danielle. What's the next step? What did you do after graduation?
Believe it or not, full circle, I go back to Germany, which is
You
like,
did. Okay.
okay, actually, you are one person who will understand this. Remember when we went on that tour, I think in Berlin, where we went on the tour of that film school there, and it was so nice.
Oh,
And
right. We went to a film school that was insane. I remember that. Was that
they're like,
Berlin?
it's free if you get in. I was like, wow, film school's free in Germany. That's amazing. Like, I'm gonna go back and go to film school there.
Oh,
So,
cool.
but
Okay.
it was like such a kooky roundabout path. Like basically I got a postgraduate fellowship
Hmm.
um, to go for another year abroad, which I literally in retrospect, I'm like, who let me do that? That was a weird choice. But when I got there, they wouldn't let me go to the trade school. I had
Hmm.
to go to a full semester of German language immersion. And I went to this town, which is almost worse than Dusseldorf. It was called Tübingen. And it was like, it's the oldest university like in Europe. And this, I didn't know anybody.
Hmm.
And I was like I basically I got tricked. I thought I was going to go study film in Germany. And then I
Yeah.
was like, at this language program and all the German students actually commute
Hmm.
like in this area. So like nobody would stay in the town on the weekends. And so basically I had no friend. I just like, it's like
You're back. It's like you're back at square one, like when you first got to
it was like
Dusseldorf.
Dusseldorf part two. It was dark. So, okay, this is a long story, but I'm going to speed through it. My
Okay.
only friend was a Polish girl named Paula. And she basically like kept me alive and kept me like in love with life. And she was like, why don't you come to Poland? And I was like, yeah, this fellowship is like messy. This fellowship is over to me. So I went to Poland. I lived with her family in Warsaw for a while. And then I finally got like a random email and they were like, okay, the technical school is like willing to consider you, but you have to take the Skype, and it's, like they're not against it, but like, it was just
Uh-huh.
so iffy. And I Skyped with them, and the guy was like, well, I don't know, I guess like you could. And then I just took a train the next day all the way down from Poland, all the way down to Ludwigsburg. And I stayed in a hostel. And I showed up in the cinematography second year of class, like, because I wanted to study camera at that point. And I just like, it was all these kids it was like 10 men and 1 woman. And they were all much older than me. And it was like, the whole thing was in technical German. And I just thought, they were doing aspect ratio in German. And I just thought, what did you do? What did you do? This is free, but you don't understand anything. Like, it was just so like crazy. I almost left, but one nice kid like encouraged me to stay.
Okay.
And then I stayed, which was kind of nuts, but like, it was cool. It also was this beautiful experience where like, I know film school in the States, like people get sucked in, you know, you get really sucked in and you kind of like live in this little micro bubble. And I think that's part of the joy for some people, but I know that also people have like really big crashes when they realize like, this school's not like this is not how movies are really made, because there's a lot of like internal bureaucracy. And like, basically I was at this school watching all these kids, but I was really an outsider. So I got to observe them get really, you know, involved in the school politics and like wrapped up in it and think their movies were everything in like a best way. But like, also I had like a little bit of this like outsider, okay, just remember, like, there's a world outside of this. So that was, I don't know, that was like a really valuable lesson at the time. I'm kind of like having a hard time being like, what did I learn from that? But it felt like, it felt juicy to like observe getting sucked in and not getting sucked in. And I worked as like a documentary DP for a film. And I really met some great kids, and I actually still am in touch with a lot of them. They really, like you guys, like they really loved movies and they were really dedicated to the work. So it was a cool perspective.
That's fantastic. How long were you there for? 1 year or 2 years?
Only a year.
Oh, a year. Okay.
Like forever. And then it was, and then the 2008 financial crisis hit. I was going to stay in Germany, and then I came back and I went to New York City, and I got a job in a camera rental house.
Oh, okay. What was that job like?
Insane. It was a technological cine video services.
Okay.
I was like making so under minimum wage. Like it was just like, I couldn't be broker, and I'm working at this place. I'm the only girl. I'm like polishing lenses. I'm like, I'm all of a sudden hating being there. So I volunteered to start driving the delivery truck, huge truck, going back all across New York City, just delivering these cases. Like, just such a weird, like, it was such a weird job.
So at this time, Danielle, are you thinking maybe I'm going to be a cinematographer, or at this time are you like, no, I still want to be a director?
I really wish I could have been a cinematographer. I respect the hell out of cinematographers, and I'm sad that I never could figure out how to light like like a real boss. Like I can like observe it and comment, but I never also had the knack where I wanted to walk in a room and like tweak a light. And I knew at that point that was like going to make me always going to limit me as a DP. I mean, I love the collaboration, and I got on the DP track because at my college, they wouldn't, because I went to Dusseldorf, this is weird, and I made a little movie there. I've did my production credits or whatever. So they wouldn't let me make a senior thesis. And so I was like, well, how do I get experience? I'm just going to be the DP for a couple people. And then I just like, the more I learned about, you know, being a cinematographer, the more I was like, oh man, back in the day, directors were the cinematographers, were the directors. Like and that as a woman and just having that technical knowledge was always going to be useful for me. But I was on the camera track for a while just because I love the work, you know, I love the work. I love the camaraderie of the department. It is a medium that everything goes through the camera. So I just thought like, how can you not go here? Like spend some time. I mean, I spent way too long in it, but I was definitely invested. I was shooting shorts like while I was working at the rental house for kids.
Now, according to IMDb, you were a camera intern on Black Swan. Is this correct?
Yeah.
Do you have any memories from that experience? You're like, I'm not saying a word.
Dude, it was hardcore. It was
Yeah.
hardcore. It
Because
was.
I've heard stories about Aronofsky. Like he's one of the like tough directors. Is that?
I mean, he was like a personal hero to me at the time because I had
Yeah.
this. I was so obsessed with Requiem for a Dream growing
Oh,
up.
one of my favorite films.
In
Yeah.
like a twisted way, where like I can't believe my parents were like, "Why are you what?" Like, they didn't say anything, and I'm just like, I'm just watching my Requiem for a Dream again. So, and Maddie Libatique, the DP, obviously like a hero, and
Mhm.
I mean, it was so hardcore. It was such a hard movie to even just be a pipsqueak con.
Yeah.
Um,
What was your responsibility as the camera intern? Were you like actually
had
on set?
I actually had a lot of responsibility. Yes, I mean,
Oh, cool.
originally,
Okay.
they were hoping to make me a loader, but the union was kind of like running a pretty tight ship in
Mhm.
that good way. And so, I mean, I just was like on, okay, here's like a small taste. There are these things, baby monitors, which is like the handheld monitor. And because we were in these like, we were in like either this huge place like SUNY Purchase in upstate New York, and the like someone would put like either Darren or somebody would like put, or Maddie would put down this baby monitor, God knows where, in like one of 50 seats, you know, like be like, where's the baby monitor? And I would like be like, and I was like, had to find it. And like, it was so stressful. It was so stressful. And you'd be like, it was just like, it was so many nights. I mean, it like ground me to a pulp. And I literally was just trying to be a good like trooper. And I mean, I tried to watch as much as I could, and I was there every day, and I was like in every stairwell that's
there were a lot of stairwells in that film.
That's where I was. No, it's like every off-turn stairwell and doorway, I'm there. Like it's just like crouching, like just like hunching over, just like trying to stay awake in case someone says your name on the little earpiece.
Yeah.
And you're like, ah. So but I'm still really good friends with a lot of the people who were like PAs on the movie.
Okay.
We really bonded deeply.
Such a superb film. It must have been cool to work on that. And then it's like a Best Picture nominee at the Oscars and all of that. And Natalie Portman winning Best Actress. I mean, it was a big deal.
It was amazing. I mean, also just because I feel like it was this moment where, and this was very early on like a test. There was a test day, a camera test day where like they were testing blood on the tutus to see sort of like what would look good. And I just remember this moment where like the veil kind of like pulled for me, where I was like, oh, they're just like trying stuff. I don't know, you know, like everything. They don't like, they're geniuses, but like also they're just squirting 6 different kinds of blood on this tutu. And the way that kind of opened things up for me to see these people I look up to so much, and also really appreciating the work ethic. I mean, Maddie Libatique is a brilliant storyteller, obviously Darren too, but just like it's like muscle and sweat and blood. And I mean, that's actually what I remember most is just like, you know. And then I worked with Maddie again, and we did Cowboys and Aliens, and we would work full days in the desert. And then there was a trailer that showed film dailies, and we would go in after a full day of work, and we'd go in and he would color time Black Swan, and I would sit with him.
Okay. Oh, cool.
But like, you know, that's hardcore, man. That's really hardcore. Those are like, that's like an 18-hour day, you know, and like to watch how hard even that level, even those artists at that level had to commit. I think film is really commitment and devotion, and it keeps asking you to like pay in and put your chips in more and more and more. And I was really watching that and taking that in, like more than any other like lesson about lighting or film stops or whatever. Like it was just the living it and the intensity of what life really making movies is like.
Any stories from the Cowboys and Alien set that had Jon Favreau and Harrison Ford and Daniel Craig? Some great talent there.
Yeah, they were all like so groovy. Like that was it was such a blast. I mean, my mind was like blown after going from Black Swan.
Yeah, wow, what a way to start.
It was crazy. It was like going to this giant, I mean, I moved from New York and I had been gripping. I was gripping for like less than $100 a day, like in Brooklyn, which is actually where I met Todd Van Hazel, who shot Blow the Man Down.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But we were like on this like tiny little indie, and I was like, there's got to be something, like I got to make a better living or something. And then I just moved. I got like a sublet and I moved to LA. I didn't know anybody. I just was like, I'm over New York for right now. And then getting this job on Cowboys and Aliens, where we would go every day to this office while we were in LA, and there was like catered lunch. And like, I was just like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, just so couldn't believe that there was like food. I was so broke in New York and just so like crushed. And Cowboys and Aliens was like the opposite of that.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
a major big studio movie. Like that was like a big summer release of 2011, I want to say.
Yeah, I'm like, no, it was like flush. It was awesome.
And then you okay. And then you also worked on a film starring Nicolas Cage. Is that right?
Yes. You guys,
Megan shared a great Nicolas Cage story with me. Megan shared a great story about Cage. Did you have any interaction with him?
Just like a polite, like, just like a, I mean, I also was like running between like, I was like in the camera department. I was in this, I think I'm credited as like second unit, second AC or something. It was New Orleans. It was just like, I was like probably like coming hungover to set every day. And like, I don't have any great stories about Nicolas Cage, but I do have this good story where like we were doing car stunts. And the dolly grip, he said to me, if it looks dangerous, it probably is.
Okay.
I was like, oh, cool. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And you had a couple stunts on Blow the Man Down, which we'll want to talk about. I love that one at the beginning where she crashes her car and that lumberjack thing comes down on the car. I was like, oh man, that must have been a little bit of a scary like a stunt for that thing. Which we'll talk about.
Oh my God. I'm just reliving it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm glad the Nick Cage movie gets a shout out. As you can see, there were a lot of different lives. I've really done like every job on a film set. Honestly.
And you worked on, I want to say, was it Ruby Sparks? I saw that you worked on. Okay. It said uncredited though. What's that about?
Because here's the fabulous. It was like Maddie was shooting it, and I came on for I did pre-pro for him. Mm-hmm. Like I did some some visual research stuff. And then I came on, and never do this anybody. I came on for the last day. I was just like a day player, and I was coming to the camera department. I think I was like going to be loader or like whatever I was, like the base bottom of the rim. And like, of course, the last day on a movie is like that size. They were trying to just get everything they could before the main principal photography was wrapped. Yeah. So it ended up being like an 18-hour day. Like it just was like, don't ever do this again. Like I just remember, like, I don't remember anything about the day on set except the morning on the camera truck after, of just being like, note to self, no more last days on movie. So I didn't really work on it.
Okay, gotcha. So 2012, you're credited as a writer director, co-writer and director of a film called Julia. How did that project come into being?
That was like, girl, you want to make movies, you better make movies. Okay. I mean, I'd been working for basically, I basically quit camera department. Okay. The famous, and Todd, if you ever see this, you'll know. Todd, who shot Blow the Man Down, I was his camera assistant for a while. Okay. And we did so much non-union stuff, like crazy. And one we did was this James Ehab music video. The music video turned out great, but it's also known in our relationship as the music video that broke Krudy. And it was like, by like day 3, like Todd would ask me to move the camera, and I'd look back at him like this, just so I had bruises like all over my leg. I was just like, there's got to be something better. Like, this is too hard. And if I want to be a director, I got to just do it. Like well, yeah, it was like that. And then I did this movie. I was first AC on this indie that Todd made with this guy, Joe Burke, who's a great director, actor. Mm-hmm. And they gave me a talk over lunch, like, Krudy, you should just go make something. If that's what you really want to do, hang out with these AFI kids who had just been through AFI, and they really were like encouraging. And And I just had gotten so bogged down in camera, and like I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go make this thing. And we made the short, and it was a great learning lesson because I still stand by the concept, but I like the writing was bad and the performances were bad. And like
Okay.
it was basically like I didn't even know how to tell a story. So I had spent so much time in camera. I fell too much in love with the technical. I was
Oh, gotcha.
too I neglected. I like had this whole underdeveloped part of my life of just like storyteller, and in terms of like actors, and also just like writing and story. So after I made that, I was like, oh, you got to learn how to tell a story, dude. You got to learn how to write characters, and you got to learn how to work better with actors.
Yeah. So what did you do to, develop your craft as a director between Julia in 2012 and Blow the Man Down? I don't see any like credits online. What were you working on in like the middle part of the decade to kind of develop your craft?
Comedic window dressing YouTube episode. Like, you didn't see that on there? No. They're like,
I'd watch it.
We always kept on doing like little things. There's
Okay.
definitely some rando stuff. I also made this short with like a bunch of women that we kind of did as a collective called Serena. And honestly, it was just cool because it was so liberating. Just after making a short that was like, okay, it's all about like fancy equipment and all this bullshit. It was like, we're going to go to the desert and we're going to make this movie, and kind of, I've got a story structure, but let's like improvise it and like toss the camera around. It was cool because it reinvigorated my passion for being like, okay, you can get better. And the other thing that happened was basically I started a job as a receptionist is what helped my craft. No, I started a job as a receptionist at Annapurna Pictures, and this was like 2013.
Oh, gotcha.
And basically what happened is like, it's like so convoluted, but like I basically quit camera, made Julia, sold my mountain bike that I was like in love with, didn't know what to do, took a job at a cafe, working at the cafe, just like, ugh. Bridget's like, you gotta quit. We gotta write something. We gotta write something for the Sundance deadline. So we started Blow the Man Down, and then I was like, okay, cool. And I took a job as a post PA. So I'm like 27 or 28. I'm working at a post house in Silver Lake, and literally like doing crafty and valet, and like just writing, but like justifying by writing. And then one day I see like this job posting for a receptionist at Annapurna Pictures, and the only thought I had was like, she's a woman, she's got great taste. Like,
absolutely.
I got scripts. So, and like I went there, and they were like, okay, there's no possibility to move up. I was like, that's fine, like whatever. And I took the job as a receptionist, but I started reading scripts. That's like that is such a big turn for me, I think, is that I started reading scripts.
And you started to see kind of, what was working and what wasn't in that whole field.
Yeah, just like learning the rhythm. And I talk about this thing, like, I think doing coverage is great because it actually helps you see how much has to happen story-wise in a movie, and how many elements are in a movie. Even though it's writing is like pulling teeth, but like I always describe movies as like a sub sandwich. You need so many layers.
Yeah.
You really need a lot of layers for a real sub. So like a movie, you gotta have, you think it's just a good bite, but oh man, there's so many layers. So I think it helped me sort of learn the components of a movie better, and like really understand storytelling, and read. While Bridget and I would then like trying to write Blow the Man Down, which I never had any formal screenwriting class. Like we read like a book.
So you were writing this as early as 2013, 2014? You were starting it like many years before it was shot.
It took us like 8 years.
Oh wow. Okay, so yeah, I should mention your directing team with Bridget Savage Cole. How did the two of you meet?
She went to Wesleyan.
Okay.
She's wonderful and brilliant and so cool, and we met as but we didn't really meet at Wesleyan. We met after, because we were both camera chicks.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And I was her AC on like a music video in Coney Island, in New York, and I had known of her, but like the more we talked, it was like, oh, she, this was a time, I think the context is really important because mumblecore was very big, but
Mm-hmm.
neither of us like liked mumblecore.
Okay.
And so it was cool to like, one, meet a girl in the camera department, which even then was pretty rare still.
Mm-hmm.
And two, to like meet someone who was like into style, like into character and like into kind of like, yeah, kind of being more bold and not like kind of understated mumblecore.
Mm-hmm.
So we really bonded over that. And then she made something and I was like a camera assistant on it. Like we stayed in,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
and then she was working, doing like, yeah, she was doing like sort of music videos and videos. This was the era of like nylon TV and videos online were just becoming kind of like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
She was like making a ton of stuff, and then I had to leave town, and then she eventually moved out to LA, and she was like, hey, I'm out in LA. I was like, cool, I'm in Santa Fe on Cowboys and Aliens, but I'll be back. And then we came back and we just started writing, and we wrote this thing, Uiwana, that she went on to direct at the AFI-DWW program that I was the DP for. And, and then we just kept on writing.
Mm-hmm.
Just kept on writing.
And when you were working on Blow the Man Down, the screenplay, were you thinking like, if we make this, we will co-direct it? Or was that like this conversation?
Really, yeah, I think it was like, we really want to make this, like, and like, let's do it. I mean, we had done so many different jobs for each, like she shot Serena, like we had traded off these positions
Mm-hmm.
so much that there was a fluidity in a way, even though we had never officially co-directed. We had just been there for each other so much.
Okay, cool. So when was Blow the Man Down getting closer to a reality? Kind of take me through that process. When was all of a sudden, oh, we might actually get to make this movie?
Ooh, well, there's so many goalposts,
Uh-huh.
I mean, when it gets real is when that money comes through.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
when you're like, because the whole process is like, you actually can never feel like it's real. And even when that is still like hard to believe, I think
Mm-hmm.
you actually get really trained really early on trying to make at least we did. We got trained to like really hold back expectations and celebrations, and just downplay everything. It was like, okay, as long as we could kind of keep this feeling like, okay, we're making some progress, but it was like hard to really feel like anything was like a magic moment.
Okay. There wasn't like a moment where you went, oh, it's happening. It wasn't, it was kind of a lot of little moments.
I got to Maine, I was like, oh my God. But even then, it's like, you're just so like worried that it could anything. I think you because you've lived through, I mean, it took us like, well, filmmaking's like this, right? The writing and pre-production is like this.
Yeah.
Production is like this.
It's like this, yeah.
And then the edit's like this or
Yeah.
this or this. But nobody talks about that phase. I mean, maybe they do. I didn't feel like I understood. Yes, there's writing the movie, but then I felt like it was 3 years of hustle. Like almost like full time, it was like full time. I was working as a researcher. I also write treatments for directors for commercials.
Okay.
And I was basically scrapping, my life together by, I was really barely getting by, but and Bridget was doing commercials, directing commercials, but it was really hardcore those 3 years. Those were really, really hard. Because you're also like putting so much, you're investing so much every day into this thing that like, you don't know if it's going to happen. So I really want to like shine a light on just like the psychology of that early chapter is like really intense. Even more so, like when you're making the movie, you're in the gauntlet, and like at least you're in the gauntlet and you're doing it, and like then it's fun on set. I mean, prep's like prep, but like those early years where like also it's your first movie, no one knows if they should even take you seriously or not. You're working your ass off on this thing. It's hard. And the best advice, like we kind of tell this story a lot, but like there was a woman filmmaker who said to me one night, she was like, you're not crazy. It is this hard. And like, I really felt like, oh, cool. Okay. Like I felt so much release from hearing that because I really felt like it was so hard to get to there, to get to even being eligible, was hard.
So what did you have to do in like 2016, 2017 to make the movie a reality? So you had to finish scripts, like you'd worked on the script for many years, right? You got it to a point where you felt like, okay, it's done, it's ready. And then you went and got people to finance the movie through different avenues?
No, we kind of took like, maybe it's the long road. I only did it
Okay.
the way. So I will say the one thing that like I really learned a lot in Aparna Pictures by like osmosis of
Mm-hmm.
just producing. I learned a lot about the business. And it was like, okay, I just, we really just kind of like started being like, okay, who do we know who we could talk to about this?
Yeah.
And going from there
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like gathering allies. I mean, there was one point where Bridget and I just like, we did crazy things. Like we just we just flew ourselves to New York City and like met with every indie producer who would meet with us.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Like, that we, hit everybody up we knew. And we're like, who do you know in, New York who's an indie filmmaker? And we like slept on friends' couches and just like went around and like met people.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And like, eventually we met our producers. But like we were just, and the funny thing is like, we both left New York and then now we were ready
And you're back.
to make our movie. We had to go back to New York because like, I do think there's this like indie, like the indie spirit, if you will, like
Mm-hmm.
is really strong there. And those people don't wait. They don't get as bogged down by systems, which people in LA do. People in LA want like the easy yes. Like they want your script to like get picked up by a big company and like, cool, you're on your way. But like, actually, are those people actually going to make your movie is a really important question.
Mm-hmm.
So, we really like Drew Haupt, Alex Sharfman, and Lucas Joaquin, the Men of Secret Engine. They really like, especially Drew, we knew could make this movie. And he also like believed in it and he understood it. And so, but we had gotten on Albert Berger and Ron Yerxa as executive producers before that,
Okay.
but we only had them as EPs. Okay, now we have to find someone who can physically make this movie with us. Okay, so then you get the person who can physically make the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, there's like, think of like 1,000 meetings in between. And then you get the producer and then they're like, okay, we got to rewrite this thing.
Well, the producer made you rewrite it again?
Yeah, I mean, we're just, we had to do it again. I mean, we needed to do it too, but like, yeah, we did rewrites. We spent like another year, I think, rewriting.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Like we did like a concentrated rewrite while we were doing meetings. And then we went out and we wanted more money. We didn't get all the money we wanted. Like there was just so many chapters. I mean, I have like fatigue even thinking about it. And we're just like, who was that? Eventually we met Leah Booman of Tango Entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
and she wanted to do the movie.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That was like a long road to get there. That was a long road, but we got there. And it was cool. But it didn't even feel like, we weren't like, yay, like, because we were so scared at that point. We were just like, I don't know, it's just one more notch.
So when did the casting process start? Would that have been what, like the fall of 2017? Like how early before production were you actually casting actors in the film?
Oh, we did casting before we got the money. A little bit of it.
Okay.
We did casting like simultaneously, or like, I honestly am kind of, it's a little foggy. Is that weird? We started with the girls because we were like, okay, the sisters are really the heart here.
Yeah.
And we read and met as many girls as we could. And we like literally did it at my like apartment in Silver Lake.
Oh, okay.
Like, or like over, a Zoom or whatever. And, that's how and Morgan was in New York, but Bridget was there and was able to read her in person. And then Sophie was like Morgan was one of the first people we read. And then Sophie was a later read. And then we were like, okay, this is it. And then we went to the older women, which was like its own long, I mean, it's a long journey. You're like waiting a month to 6 to 8 weeks on like some of these people. You
Oh,
know,
I imagine. Yeah.
yeah. And you're writing letters, you're writing personal, thoughtful letters, you know, for every single one. It really is a lot of labor just to like wait, weirdly.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I worked in casting for 2 years. I understand that process where, especially when you put an offer out, it could be 6 weeks, 10 weeks. You're not hearing anything. You're like, is this a pass? Is what's going on here?
I know. I know.
Was there
And
any pressure to like get a name or two names for those younger girls, or did you just want to go with
as
the two
long
best
as
actors?
Hollywood exists, there's going to be pressure. Like, you know, like I just think like, you know, and I believe in the system. I believe in the division of labor. Like, look, producers are there to like get the best for the movie possible.
Mhm.
And like, sometimes that means like taking shots or whatever, like, you know, not to like that we did or didn't. I honestly don't even remember. Like,
Yeah.
but I think it's a system that's built around like this arbitrary like dollar amount for people and like,
Mhm.
or maybe it's not arbitrary. I don't work in the finance department, but like, don't quote me. But so, you know, I think that's part of the mix unless you have like an independent sugar mama or whatever.
Yeah.
Like people, you know, and we didn't. So obviously that stuff had to be considered, and you're really fighting like, not fighting, you're negotiating with a system and with budget concerns. You know,
Mhm.
you're navigating concerns of taste and character with like other demands.
But what a cast you got. I mean, you got June Squibb, Oscar nominee June Squibb is amazing in this movie. And Annette O'Toole, who I love. My like one of my favorite shows from high school. I was watching Smallville, right? All the
Oh
time
my
to see
God.
her
Okay.
in this film. And then maybe my favorite character actress working today in movies, and that's Margot Martindale. What an amazing cast you got for this.
Triple threat. Yeah.
You know?
They were so special. They were so cool.
That must have been when Margot Martindale said yes. Were you dancing around the room?
Yeah. We were just like, oh my God. Like, just like, oh, okay. Like, gotta be good now. Like,
So when Margot Martindale says yes, is she calling you? Or are you calling her? Like, what is that day like when you get a yes from somebody that great who's going to be in your movie?
I don't think you talk to them. I was like,
You
I don't think like, it just depends. I think sometimes you get an agent manager, yes. And
Oh,
then,
sometimes it's just through the agent just says she said yes. That's what the
yeah,
agent.
yeah, I think we just got like a mess, or like through our producers, like the
Oh,
producers
okay.
do it, and then we get the call from them, and you know, there's a whole system. But and then maybe like a week or two later, I don't know, maybe we had like a short call, you
Okay.
know, and but like quick, you know, you're just like, well, okay, see you in a second.
All
Like,
right. See you in Maine.
yeah, just like just like, yeah. So I wish there was this like, you know, we called the sisters.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But it just depends on who it is, man.
All right. So let's go into production. So early 2018, you're shooting this film in Maine in the winter. What was that like? I'm watching this
So
movie. I'm like, this looks like really cold, like the whole movie. I'm
good. It was
like, what was it like as the crew?
it was super unforgiving on all department heads and everybody. I mean, yeah, that was hard. I think as somebody who worked in all crew positions, it was hard to like be like, okay, I know it's like 15 degrees and we are all out here, and like, you know, that's a lot of responsibility as a director, just to know what you're asking of people. There were like 2 nor'easters. I mean, there was so much snow and then no snow, and like the producers did such a good job of like moving snow when we needed. But again, we had like such a small crew, like you were shaking the snow off the tree branches. Like, yeah, that was crazy. No,
Can I ask what the budget was of the film?
we don't say.
Okay.
Let's just say it's
It
under
it,
whatever you think it.
it was how many days did you shoot?
I think like 28 or something.
28 days. Okay. Did you feel like you had enough time to get everything you wanted?
You always want more time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it forces you to make like decisions and be smart. Like we were rewriting on the weekends and like,
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
you know, just when you learn how fast the machine works, like your machine, your crew, you guys, like you just need to adjust so that you can get everything and adapt. And that's like part of it is like staying like nimble so that you can adjust. But yeah, man, it was so cold. We did these things called Santa Barbara specials. I don't even know why it's
What's
called
that?
It's where you put a toe warmer on top and bottom of your sock, like a Santa Barbara special.
Oh, okay.
So you
Warms
have
your
like,
feet.
yeah, you have one on the bottom, which is where you normally put it, but also one on the top. And those were pretty classic. But I mean, just the layers of gear it was ridiculous. It was so cold. It was so cold.
From the beginning, did you know you wanted to shoot it in Maine in the winter? Was that always the idea from the beginning?
It was always set in Maine.
Okay.
I think in their beginning, we really wanted to make it in fall. We
Okay.
were like, oh, fall sweaters, like just fall, like we are just so cool. And then obviously now you watch it, you're like, duh, it's a winter movie. Like it just
Oh,
is
absolutely.
it's so much better as a winter movie. But yeah.
What was the first day on set like for you? Was that a scary morning, or did you feel comfortable, or what was that first day like?
I wish Bridget and Todd were here because I'm laughing at these memories alone and I wish I could commiserate with them. The first day we shot this scene that we like tried this really ambitious camera move that's literally just all of it got cut from the movie.
I hear that a lot. Like day one shooting, a lot of films, like they just have to throw away day one. Sometimes that happens.
We like talked ourselves in. We're like, well, maybe it's great. Like start out the whole thing with doing this super ambitious thing, get everybody on board and excited because we're doing cool stuff. And like, it just was like, cut. But, you know, we used some stuff from that day, but it was just funny. Like we were like spinning camp, like it was just so wrong. And we were like, hey, I think that was wrong. Like later we were all just like, huh, no, we forced it. Like that wasn't the movie, you know?
And in terms of like getting your DP, you said you had worked with him before, and like your editor, like how did you go about getting the crew of the film? Kind of talking beyond the cast, like how did you pick everybody in the crew?
It's like a long, well, Todd was always going to do it. Bridget has worked with Todd. They made an amazing short together, done commercials together. And so Todd was the man and had been like, you know, on board for years and read earlier drafts. And then so lucky to get our production designer, Jasmine Ballieu-Jones, who actually I met on Black Swan.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And she was always nice to me. And and she worked in props then. And I just remembered her and how like amazing she was personality wise. And like I knew she had stayed in film and kind of had been watching her over the years. Like I had a weird job at Annapurna for a little bit. I was like looking at department heads as like part of my work of just like who's doing what. So I was like a little up on stuff. And she's incredible and brought an amazing art team. And then Brooke Bennett was, you know, because our producers were in New York and had been making films for a while, they knew great people in New York, you know, so they introduced us to Brooke Bennett, who did costumes and just did an amazing job. And then Mark Vives, our editor, who is like, we think of as like the third, fourth father on this movie or whatever. We met him, I think we had Skyped with him while we were in Maine. And we had a couple editors, but nobody felt like obvious. And then Vives had such an amazing resume and like was like a real like artful indie guy. And I remember like, I think our producers were like, he might be like, you guys might be like too mainstream for him. And we're like, wait, what? And like, but he was down to do it. And he did such an amazing job. Amazing instincts. Such a great editor. Such a great guy.
Yeah.
Like, all the department heads were like dreamy.
Oh yeah, but as a first-time director, you really want to get these fantastic people behind the scenes, right, to collaborate with, and you got a great group of people for sure, right?
They just, and also just like fun, nice people, you
Hmm.
know. So we
People you
really,
want to actually spend time with.
yeah, we really feel lucky. So that's why I'm like, it's a collaboration, you know, like those people brought their A games,
Hmm.
and that's what made the movie what it is.
And I wanted to ask how you collaborate with actors as a co-director with Bridget. I mean, I'm sure that's come up before, but like, how do you communicate with actors when there's two of you? How do you go about doing that?
Honestly, it's like way more fluid than you think.
Hmm.
We always are like in meetings together with them, any chats before and rehearsals. And then on set, it's usually so intuitive. You know, Bridget also played sports, and we talk about it kind of like a sports team where you like, you know, you just kind of find this, you know, at that point you're comfortable with both of the people, and sorry, the actors are comfortable with both of you
Yeah.
usually. And um it it's honestly kind of like organic. I honestly can't think of any cool insights about it, but you want to support each other's good impulses. So like if Bridget has like a no, I'm like, yeah, that's great. Like go.
Hmm.
You know, like you want this person who's going to fill in your blind spots or
Hmm.
vice versa. You know, the strength is not that you guys are both having the same idea all the time. It's that you guys are like a bigger scope of brain when you're able to invite those impulses from each other.
Hmm. Cool. Do you have any memorable days from the shoot you can share with us? Anything that happened like during the shoot that that have particular memories with you?
Okay, the day we did the last confrontation with Enid with the older women on the porch, it
Hmm.
was like, I think it was like, I can't remember the exact number. It was -4 that day, that night.
Oh my God.
And we knew, and we put it to the women. We asked the women to vote whether we should move the scene inside or outside, even though we really wanted it. It was set outside always.
Hmm.
And obviously it would have been like a way different scene inside. Um, but they were like, we're down to do it, even June Squibb. And
June Squibb said, "Yes, I will shoot outside in -5 degrees."
yeah, it was amazing. Or it was
Wow.
like, it was -5 or like 4 degrees. I mean, it was like definitely like it was under 10.
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's some like little factoid out there, but I just can't, I may blacked it out. But so it was just hard, it was hardcore, you know, it's that cold. And you're trying to not like, you're trying to get the scene, you know, you've been dreaming of the scene or whatever.
Hmm.
And they were amazing. I mean, it was just memorable for the coldness. um, Gosh, any other memorable? Oh, the other memorable was we did some reshoots
Oh,
for
okay.
for the fisherman stuff in particularly.
Oh,
And we
like
went back,
like the singing that wasn't done in the 28 days.
no,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
we did some of it and then we wanted to redo it because it kind of, because our production was so small, it kind of got just like, kind of just got kicked down the road. Do you know what I mean? It's like we
Hmm.
needed to get the movie in the can, and this other thing was like this other thing. So eventually, a whole year later, we went back to Maine.
Oh, a year later. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, basically a year later. And we go into, it's December, and it's, we get back up there and you're like, oh shit, it's cold. Why did,
Why did we
what?
come back?
We were like, it was so funny just to be like, oh man, whoa, we were here for like 3 months or so, 4 months. And like just being back for like a week was like, it was so intense. But the day we were gonna go shoot the opening scene, we wake up and there's this fog, you
Mm.
know, and people talk about these kinds of moments, but it was like we literally couldn't even, we Bridget and I couldn't even like look at each other, like we were so nervous to jinx it. We were like,
Yeah.
just like, okay, just it was just so like we were so nervous that it was going to break before we were ready, and then it just kind of worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
But that was, you know, we had been in Maine for so long before and never had a perfect day like that with just like the fog lingering. So it really was like that was wild.
Oh, I'm so glad that you went back and did that because that's such a, I feel like a crucial part of the movie. It's kind of like this Greek chorus that runs through and it has like this payoff at the end with like some of the women singing the same song. It like it needs that. So I'm happy you went back and did that.
Yeah, our producers and the financier really supported us making that happen. So that was really special.
And it's such a memorable opening with them singing, and the way that's framed, like all of the, I mean, the editing there, right? Showing the fish and then that long shot where you see the car and then we're introduced to our protagonist. That was a really unique way to open the film.
Well, we always say that the references are tradition from Fiddler on the Roof and
Okay.
and Le Poisson from Little Mermaid. So
So there's some Little Mermaid and Blow the Man Down. I
yeah,
love
yeah,
it. Okay, so once the film is wrapped, what was the editing process like? How long did that take before it was ready to maybe submit to some festivals?
Oh, we took as long as we could. I mean, we edited April through December, you know.
Okay. And was it
Um,
hard? I mean, this movie, it's like a drama, it's got comedy, it's a thriller, it's suspenseful, and it's like a small town mystery. Was that kind of difficult in editing to kind of modulate the tone?
always. I mean, that was also difficult even in writing and in all of
Mm-hmm.
our early conversations. I mean, yeah, you're really rewriting the movie again, and you can't take anything for granted that anybody's going to understand anything
Yeah.
at all. And, you know, I think one of the more challenging thing was parceling out the information of when the audience knew what about what.
Mm-hmm.
And because also some characters say one version of the truth and other characters say another version. So really trying to find those lines, which you even was tough like on the script page because you want to find an artful way to do it, but sometimes explicit is good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to find this line in the edit where like you're not disrespecting your audience, but you also are going for clarity. And
Mm-hmm.
finding that is not, it's cool to know like it's not obvious. And like it is a kind of like a process to get there. So, you know, we just needed to find the best way to kind of tell the story, especially of like the brothel, you know, and when that was going to kind of like hit, when the what about who. So that was like a storytelling process for sure. And
Mm-hmm.
then like trying to find the tone, which the music was a really big part of
Mm-hmm.
that. And Bridget has like a great sense of music background. And then we got Brian McComber, who like his work on Krisha was just so cool. And we were so thrilled to have him. And then he and Jordan did like just an amazing score, you know. But that really helped. But that was so late. I mean, you don't get the score till like very end. So, you know, it was a process. I mean, Vives really was. We were just in that room for a long time.
Yeah, so you're in that room for most of what, 2018. When do you say, okay, it's ready, let's send it to Tribeca? Like when does that decision come?
When we're finished in December, we locked it in December, and we were like, okay, or like, and maybe they send out some earlier versions. You know, like I
Oh,
don't know.
okay.
Producers have their ways, but like we finished in December,
What
and we kind of got cut off, honestly. No, I
was
mean you get cut off eventually, and it's probably good.
Yeah, so you get into Tribeca. Take me through the experience of premiering the film, like showing it to a big audience for the first time. What was that like?
Oh, you know what? It was so normal that it was cool. And I
Okay.
mean that by like, I say that it helped reinforce the craft work and all the hard work because I feel like it's like you think you're going to premiere your movie and it's going to go through this like magic tube and like come out like sparkly and it's a movie. But actually, it's just the same thing you've been working on this whole time. And
Mhm.
actually was weirdly comforting to me. I was like, oh no, that's the movie we made. That's what we made. Well, and this was even before I knew like if people liked it or didn't. It just was like, oh, yeah, like all those hours, all those decisions are there. And I'm glad we were careful about all of them.
That must have felt really good to see your vision on the screen. You're not watching it like, well, it's 20% of what I wanted it to be, which I know a lot of directors have thought that, you know,
I mean, I'm
for
sure, don't quote me forever. I mean, no, I'm just saying like that was an experience of just being like, all right, like trust in the work. You know, that's all
Mhm.
I thought about that screening was like, okay, trust in the work.
Had you screened it for like a big audience before Tribeca, or was that the first time you watched it with a big group?
That was the first time we watched it like with a big group. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then you won the best screenplay award at the festival. That must have been pretty sweet, right?
Yeah, that was cool. I have been saying like and this is for all the writers out there, like it was this kind of bittersweet moment because we go backstage after we get this like little certificate, and I like looked at it and I was like, whoa. But I actually felt this sadness for not having taken myself more seriously as a writer in
Oh,
like
okay.
years and years and years before, because I was like writing poetry in high school. I just never thought that I didn't write all of college. Like I felt like, oh, I'm from Ohio. Like I have nothing to say, or like I'm not cool, or I just I was so critical and didn't trust any of myself. Even I didn't even invite that was possible for me.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that's like how I grew up or whatever. But I just um yeah, that I was like, oh man, my number one thing I want to tell younger like aspiring writer directors is just like, if you can write, if you care about writing, like do it and like take it seriously and like make it matter. And I wish I had just made it matter earlier.
Oh, absolutely. And then you would go on to be nominated at the Film Independent Spirit Awards for Best First Screenplay. Take me through that whole thing. I mean, that must have been a huge thrill.
That was cool. We were in Vancouver shooting The Stand, and we like got like we didn't even like really know, we didn't know that this was even possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start getting these texts or whatever. We're like, oh, okay, wow. Like, all right. And it was just cool because it was a fun part. It was cool. No, it was a real honor. And like again, it's just this thing of like, take the writing seriously. Respect your work, and it was just an honor to be there. And like I hope that it got a couple other people to watch the movie. It's like it's just for the movie. And Amazon was so supportive, and
Mm-hmm.
you just at that point it's like a sports team. You want to do well, the movie to do well for the whole team to feel good, not just like, oh, we can write a screenplay, or we wrote this one screenplay, but like just to share the love of
Mm-hmm.
with, to see your producers happy, to see Amazon happy, or, that's such a good feeling when people can feel like they took a chance
Mm-hmm.
and um, it paid off.
Yeah. When did Amazon come on board? Was it soon after Tribeca?
It was like a month or so or two after. Yeah.
And were they, so I mean, obviously COVID hit in early 2020. Were they intending on a theatrical release of any kind, or was it going to their
Oh, always
prime?
digital. It was always
Okay.
digital. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it came out and right when COVID hit, so the timing was good. Everyone was at home. You could watch it, right?
It was so weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty crazy. So yeah, I just want to say, that film, I just thought it was so striking, Danielle. I'm just so impressed with what you and Bridget put together. It's so fantastic, and kudos to you for finding. I mean, that's so inspiring that you worked on it for years and years and years. You finally got it made, and it just worked out for you. It's so fantastic.
Thank you,
So it's
Brian.
fantastic. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about The Stand, Danielle.
I want to hear what you think about The Stand, because I love you read the book, Brian.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's been a few years, but I am a Stephen King super fan. I've read almost everything of his. So I want to know, like, were you a Stephen King fan before coming aboard this project? Had you read any of his work?
Yeah, and I also just like Dolores Claiborne is like one of my favorite movies. I
Oh, it's
mean,
fantastic. Yeah. One of his most underrated adaptations, I would say. People don't talk about it. Yeah.
I agree. I think it's insane how good it is. The turns in that movie, I'm like, oh, like I love it so much. So I was always like a scaredy cat. My older sister would read Stephen King. I remember like seeing this cover of Cujo.
Yeah,
and
the
like
dog.
like being like, oh, like get that away. And Kat would have the book It out, and I'd be like, don't come near me. Like I was so scared because like images really stay with me, and I just am a sensitive little kid. So I couldn't like necessarily read it, but I loved the character. I love his character work. And actually Stephen King on writing was such a big like book for me.
Which one?
It's called Stephen King on Writing. It's like Stephen King.
Oh, on writing. Yeah. It's one of my favorites. Absolutely.
Oh my God, hearing about his life, that crazy chapter where he like worked at that like seafood laundromat, or like the laundromat place with the guy with the hand that got lost in the laundry.
Yeah.
Like
the mangler.
The mangler. Oh my God. It was just so many just the drama of his life. Like, and oh my God, I was so like transfixed and inspired by it. And like,
That's a great book for filmmakers to read, for novelists to read, anyone interested in the arts. I think that's a great book to read.
Yeah, it left a strong impression on me. So I hadn't read The Stand when the conversation began, but we read it, and
In one sitting, right?
yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh, how long is it?
Like reading the scripts, and reading the book, just the characters and the wit and the stakes, like everything was so fun and juicy, and we were like, oh my god, this would be amazing. And they had such a good cast.
Oh my
And
god, yeah. So take me through, how did the opportunity come to you first? Did you pursue it at all? Did it come to you? How did that happen?
No, that one came to us. I think they had seen Blow the Man Down, and like there's some weird stuff with like Maine and like character, and these were episodes that like were kind of about the characters, so it was like a kind of a match that way. And then you just like have conversations, you share ideas, you hear what they want, you know go from there.
Were you from minute one, were you like, yes, we're doing this, or were there any hesitation about it? Or
Like, don't get excited until you get the job.
Okay.
I mean, we come in hot, we go for it, but then it's like you don't always know what's going to happen. But yeah, we were like totally down, and then it worked out, and so we did two of the 9 episodes.
Yeah, so you did episode 3 and 4. So was the show shot in order? Like, were episodes 1 and 2 in the can before you started?
Actually, yes.
Okay.
And then we did block shooting on ours, so it's like that means they like throw up the scenes like pieces on a chessboard, and like they mix around, and like one day I'll do one scene from one episode, later that day I'll do another scene from another episode, or something like that.
I feel like it'd be hard. There's so many characters, and it's like you're already 2 episodes in. So was that tricky to kind of find like how to put it all together? Was it kind of confusing at all, or did it make sense?
Yes, no, to everything. No, it's just like, it's always like a puzzle,
Yeah.
and it's just like, okay, how do you make sense of things, and how do you orientate people, and work with actors to just understand where they're at in their journey. That's like one, because especially we kind of did the road movie chapters of their experience. So just trying to make the emotional reality of like where they're going, where they've been, support them in that, and try to remind ourselves, like, where are we in this thing,
And how long were you shooting those 2 episodes?
It almost was like our movie. It was like 28 days. Like, it was.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's almost 2 hours, right? Of material. So that would make sense. And that was in Vancouver?
Yeah.
Okay. What was it like spending time in Vancouver shooting this series?
Rain. It was so rain. Oh my God. I swear to God, it rained like so. It was crazy how much it rained. It was like the month of October. I swear to God, it rained, like poured every single day. Poured. It was cold.
So when the scene was outside, what'd you do? Go
Honestly,
back in?
there's some scenes where it's straight up raining, and like sometimes the camera catches it, but like sometimes it's just raining. Like, you just shoot in the rain.
Okay.
You just roll with it.
So I was going to ask if this was shot before COVID hit. So it was like the end of 2019 you shot?
Yeah.
Okay. So was the whole series finished before March of 2020?
No, they had
okay.
Last stuff they had to do, I think. We weren't obviously there for that, but I think they had a couple like pickup stuff in Vegas they had to do.
Okay. Yeah. Same thing happened to, actually, Megan was talking about, she costume designer of the show A Teacher on FX. And I guess they were almost done, but they had to do some like reshoots in like the summer of 2020, which is like, a whole other beast. You didn't have to be a part of any of the reshoots after COVID hit?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So you didn't have to go through that. I would imagine that it's tough right now. Even now, I mean, things are getting a little better. But at least you were able to, especially, I mean, you have what, at least 2 or 3 crowd scenes I noticed in your 2 episodes. That would have been hard to do now.
Oh yeah. I don't even know where they're at with that stuff. I mean, I did a commercial in COVID, and I was like full face mask and full screen. I don't know how they're doing. It's really a hardcore endeavor now. And I don't know what would have been possible for us then.
So talk about working with some of these actors. You got to direct Whoopi Goldberg. What was that like? She's one of my favorites.
I mean, she's the boss. Like, it was so cool. We were just like excited.
Yeah.
I mean, she's as funny like she's so funny. Like and she had really good X factor in every scene. You know, I mean, you're just like kind of get out of her way, you know?
Okay.
Just get out of her way.
She's not Whoopi Goldberg. You're not saying, actually, no, Whoopi, do it like this, do it like that. You're kind of like, just stay out of it. Let her do her thing.
Or just like, yeah, you're always like, I'm there if you need me. But like, these people know, you know, they know.
Yeah.
She knows what she's doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Had you been a fan of hers before? Like, had you seen some of her older films like Ghost and Color Purple? I mean,
oh my God,
astonishing.
I mean, totally. Yeah. I mean, we were just, I mean, that whole cast, like Whoopi obviously is a legend, but like just the whole cast was really people we were familiar with their work. And it was really neat to collaborate with them on their characters. Like, you know, that was the cool thing is like, they really were all people who were invested in making these characters come to life. And that's where you really find your connection. I think if it's not just like an obvious personal one, like you really are excited about character and like, so are they. And like, that's just, I don't know, that sparks so much conversation, which is neat.
Was working with James Marsden a thrill? He's always been an actor I've enjoyed.
So funny. So he's not like playing a funny guy, but he's very funny in real life.
Oh, cool.
So they were all like lovely. So just like wonderful people.
And welcoming to you and Bridget and like, come on board. Let's do this. Let's make this a great show. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about two scenes. So episode 3, it opens with that really creepy scene of those girls, you know, around like not a Ouija board, but they're like talking to spirits. Like, was that, I mean, that was such a striking opening scene for your first of the 2 episodes. Were you like deliberately trying to kind of set the tone there to create a scene of real genuine horror at the beginning?
Well, that was, you know, to the writer's credit, like that scene is there, obviously, and we're there to bring it to life. But, you know, working with the girls, and we hired a movement coach, and we worked with a movement coach to work with the girls. And this was one of the few rehearsals we did, but because they were young, to work with the girls to work on body choreography for when the planchette started getting crazy. And so that was like a huge, just, you know, spending Saturdays with this movement coach and the girls and like just trying to make the movement feel like you could really buy it. So we were just trying to make the reality of it feel terrifying, because it would be terrifying.
Absolutely.
And just casting the girls, finding the right girls who could like, you know, help capture that Stephen King tone, and then before it shifts into like kind of the darker space. Yeah.
Were you aware, had you seen the 1994 adaptation directed by Mick Garris? Were you familiar with that at all?
No.
Okay, cool. So you were, oh, I don't remember. I saw that maybe 10, 15 years ago, but yeah, I mean, this one was very different, right? This felt much more kind of modern, contemporary. Obviously the effects are much better, like the visual effects and the makeup effects, working with, you know, I mean, that came out in 94, right? So there's been a lot of development since. Yeah. I was just curious if you had seen that one. And then episode 4 has maybe my favorite scene of the entire series, Danielle. That scene where they come up to the truck in the middle of the road and that guy has the handcuffs. That was unbelievable. The tension in that 5-6 minutes, whatever it is. Like, were you on set? Like, were you aware that you were creating this really fantastic moment?
God, I need to tell Bridget.
Yeah, as a fan of King and The Stand, that was really great.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, this is your episode. This is fantastic.
That's so cool. Well, I can't wait to pass that on. It was hardcore.
Yeah,
like all things are. Well, the actor who played Garvey,
so good, so creepy.
Angus, I believe his name is. He's so good, and funny, but you know, and again, the writers had kind of birthed that idea, and we were there to kind of like make the action like fun and to dramatize it. I mean, Owen, who plays Harold, is so incredible.
Love that
And
actor. Yeah, he's
I mean,
fantastic.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, his performances, like him and Angus, I think are really, you know, before the women kind of bust in and kind of take over,
Mm-hmm.
really feeling the anguish of that scene through Owen. And he really captured that in such a way that felt so true to Harold. It
Mm-hmm.
was like, you felt like horrified watching it, but also like embarrassed for him
Mm-hmm.
and this shame that he has of like his manhood. I mean, it was kind of like he really cycles through so much. And yeah, that was 2 days on this road that
Okay.
we stopped the road and you know, stunts and
Yeah, the part where the girl gets shot right when she's trying to defend,
yeah.
right when she's trying to bring that club down or whatever on his head, and she gets shot. I was like, "Whoa,
Okay, cool. I
that was intense."
love that. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, the VFX Jake Braver, VFX King did so they did such a great job with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Dana, just like clubbing Garvey. Yeah, no, I mean, gosh,
Yeah.
there's so many beats within the scene that I'm like cycling through. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that shot of him after she's hit him 4 or 5 times, and his face is just like Game of Thrones style mangled. Is that a visual effect, or is that on set? It's
yeah,
like, okay, that's
yeah,
all visual. Okay, that's what I thought.
yeah. But we did the blood spray that's on Owen's face, like watching it happen, that's practical.
Okay,
So it's sometimes a combo, but yeah, I'm so glad you enjoyed that.
yeah,
It was very cold again.
yeah, that felt like that was like a real genuine like Stephen King scene, like something you would find in his writing. I thought that was really well done. So was Stephen King? Did you get to meet him? Was he on set at all? No.
No.
Because I know he wrote the last episode. I wasn't sure how involved he
Yeah,
was.
I kept looking for him.
Yeah, he came to Reno 2016 to promote one of his novels, End of Watch, and I got to go. I didn't meet him, but I got to see him talk. He was right in front of me. It was a thrill. I never thought I would get a chance to see him in person, but he came to Reno, if you can believe it.
Wow. Are you in Reno now, Brian?
Yeah, I'm in Reno, Nevada. Yeah.
Wow. How is
Yeah.
Reno?
Yeah, it's cool. It's fun. Yeah, I've got kind of a new life now, podcasting and teaching, and I'm a novelist. I write novels, so Stephen King is like my hero. So I'm trying to get some novels going here. One's out to agents, so cross your fingers.
Hey.
And I've written some screenplays. I've got this really cool script. I've just started sending it out to some contests and things, but we'll see if anything comes of it.
Hey,
but I'm a writing machine.
Hey.
See where it takes me.
Every day, baby. Like Steve says, show up in the chair, sit in the chair, or at standing desk, whatever.
Absolutely. So just final thoughts about The Stand. What was the experience like as a whole? Just like, what did you kind of get from that experience? Was it different? Was it a lot different working going from film to television? Like the process, I'm assuming, was a lot different.
Really different. Just the pace and what they're looking for, and navigating like a whole new system of people that you're just the kind of guests. You're like there. The real thrill was working with the cast and the showrunners, and Ben and Taylor, just and seeing that stuff come to life and, working at that pace and just showing up every day and trying to just make scenes work and make actors like feel supported in their process. I mean, it's tapping into your, like the things you're building off of the things you've grown and learned, but it's also just like really intense and crazy in a different way, and like in a way there's like a joy from that you haven't like slaved over the script for 8 years, you can come in and you get to just like you're a little bit more free. You can flex like an outside perspective, but also that Stephen King's material. I think it was a real treat to have the book as a reference too. Pulling kind of cross-referencing that, like pulling stuff over, ideas, inspiration. So I enjoyed that just on me personally, of just like getting to read the chapter about that we were about to film and like pull images. Okay, so, and you could talk with actors who had been familiar with the text and like, what are there images that are potent for you here? Here's, what's in the text. And So I think you could kind of dig in that way.
Mhm. Yeah, super different going from a project where you're in it for 8 years and you're writing it and rewriting to go to something that you have a book, you have a text you can look at, right? Stephen King's work and the script. And were you involved in editing at all, or is that kind of like its own thing
I
when it
was
comes to
like,
television?
no, but I was like, oh no, we got 5 days on each episode.
Oh, okay.
So you come back to LA and we did 5 on each, and we do our director's cut, and then
Oh,
the
cool.
the studio and the showrunners like do their cuts.
And what was it like for you to finally see your episodes, like once they aired on CBS All Access?
That was cool. I mean, I like loved watching The Stand. I've been like, I was so sad it ended recently because
Yeah, I wanted it to go on for another like
I know I really was like in a groove with the characters. So I was just really sad when it ended. I mean, obviously I'm bringing like a lot of personal stuff to this just because I
Mhm.
was invested in seeing
Yeah.
like, their end journey, which was so epic after we
Mhm.
left. They had
Yeah.
such a big like trek, literally.
Episode 8 looked like it would have been very hard to direct.
Oh my God, totally. He did such a good job.
You're watching that like, oh boy.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, good job. Like,
Yeah.
whoa. But yeah, I just like loved it watching it.
Yeah. I mean, I love Stephen King adaptations, even when, I mean, some of them are better than others. This was a thrill. I mean, it had been a long time since the 90s adaptation, and The Stand is one of my 5 or 6 favorite Stephen King books. So this was a lot of fun. And I just remember, finishing episode 4, and it said directed by Danielle Krudy. And I went, I
Oh
went,
my God.
oh my God,
That is
that Danielle Krudy?
a good one.
Holy crap. I was like so excited to reach out to you. So thank you for doing this for me,
Oh my
Danielle.
God,
This has
thank
been
you,
so much
Brian. Like
fun.
I,
Do you have
I-
anything in the works right now? Are you working on any screenplays or projects coming up? What's coming up?
writing, clicking away.
Little this.
Just like a little bit of this. Yeah, we're writing our next feature with Amazon, and then probably doing a show down the road, and we're here, baby.
Oh,
We're trying to
sweet.
work.
So
So yeah,
so another movie with Amazon. It's coming, huh?
yeah. So give us hopefully not 8 years, but
Well, I'm excited to see what happens next, Danielle. I mean, these 2 projects are so special. They're so fantastic. I can't wait to see what you do next with
Brian, thank you
Bridget.
so much. I was so touched when you reached out, and I really can tell you like genuinely love The Stand. Just like I'm so cool as a Stephen King fan that like you felt like it was like entertaining and
Oh, really
delicious.
fantastic. And what an incredible cast, and just, what a thrill.
I do want a separate podcast called The Dusseldorf Reminiscence. I'm kind of I'm kind of more interested in that podcast. It's like, Dusseldorf, where are they now? Like, it's like, what did you learn from Dusseldorf? Like, it just feels like, just not to bring it full circle or anything, but I just think, oh man, Jesus.
What did you learn about editing?
Did you learn? I was like, you know what I loved? Not before we go, I loved that directing teacher we had.
Oh yeah, what was his name? Andrew something? Yeah, he was great. Like the curly haired director guy.
Yeah, he was cool. And he was like teaching us like the dialectic. And like, I just feel like he was super intelligent and had like a great artist spirit. I wish I could find that guy in the world. Like, I wish I could.
He was the best of the Germany-based teachers we had. Was the directing.
He was special. He was special. So I think fondly of him. Brian,
this was so much fun.
On the novels, okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I hope we talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for doing this for me, Danielle, and thanks to all of you for listening. I'll catch you next time on Film at 50.